welcome to the second episode of Tech Tips. Wow, I can't even
Tech
get that
Tips.
straight. Tech Tips with Metra Home Theater Group. I am Brett McCall, and this is Adam Rogers, and
Hey, guys.
we are your host. So, what do we got today, Adam?
So today we're going to be talking about HDMI AOC cables, which is really exciting because we're doing fiber instead of copper.
Explain AOC.
So we've got our 4 channels inside of our regular HDMI cables. Now, in a situation like this, when you have the 4 channels, normally in a copper setup, you run into longer distances. You are going to have the EM radiation from other things in the area, power lines, other signals, things like that, can cause issues on that cable. So with fiber, the biggest difference is that we're using light instead of electricity, so we don't have that problem. That's one of the biggest benefits to it. So,
Before you go further, what does AOC stand for?
active optical cable.
Explain active.
It means that it's one direction, or it's a powered device. There's actually a chipset inside that cable.
Okay, both ends.
Yes,
That's what makes it directional.
correct.
Okay.
So from there, guys, we're going to jump directly into unboxing today. Last time we kind of waited a little bit, but we're going to go right into it. So.
And why are we
from
doing
here-
that?
Because we want your questions, we want to unbox it, and we want to get things going. So from here, we'll go ahead and just start our unboxing.
And away we go.
Unboxing with the boy.
All right, guys. So today we have our HDMI. It's the IB HD AOCD 100. So the really cool thing about this is we're going 100 feet on a fiber optic cable, and so we're going to go ahead and start our unboxing. So,
Now, while you're doing the unboxing, how far can you go with that cable?
So technically speaking, we have the longest that we have, I believe, is 266 feet.
Okay.
So you'll see inside here, we've got nice packaging inside. You've got the styrofoam to protect it. It comes on a reel. So the really nice thing is that if you have a reel set up, when you go to run this throughout a house or something, or through a building, you have the ability to run this with a standard reel setup. But from here, we've got our different accessories, and we've got the cabling here. Nice thing is that you are actually able to test the cable before you run it without unreeling anything. And we do this for 2 reasons. One, it's actually tested before it leaves the factory. And 2, it's for you guys out in the field to test it before you put it in. It's really good practice to test your cables before you put them in, just to make sure everything's good, even with ours. And that's something that we recommend for pretty much anything you're gonna be running. Always you wanna test it before you run it. So you've got both sides here. Now this is our detachable head shell. And so the nice thing is that you can very easily pop the end of it off.
Now, once you pop the end of it off, what do you do?
So you can take this here and you can actually run it with a piece that's inside the little accessories package here.
Which also comes in the box.
You have this piece here. What this does is it's a little case for the end of this, and you'll just very simply put it inside there and close it up. There's a little, I don't know if you can see that on the camera or not, but you can actually see right there, there's some holes there on the end of it. It's good space to run your pull string through and tie it off to it. This gives it a nice point to go ahead and pull it through. That way you're not just wrapping a bunch of electrical tape on the end of it. So.
And a good bit of information to go with this on our YouTube, Metra Home Theater Group. There is also an excellent video showing the installation of this cable already posted.
Correct. So please check that out as well. Now, what else comes with this is we have a small USB to micro USB. This is a powered cable, but it is powered off the HDMI bus. What this is for, Brent, is...
We have actually run into a few cases, and this goes back to the old days of AOCs, where some of the displays and sources do not have enough current to make each other happy.
Correct.
The way HDMI works is a display side device is responsible for sending current backwards to the source to power it up. This is not always enough there. So with this cable, you can add the supplemental current to make sure that everybody's happy. The display, the source, the matrix, whatever's in the line has enough current to do its job. We've only run into a couple of situations where this was needed, but you should always have that with you because it's a great time saver.
Exactly. So we'll go ahead and finish the unboxing at this point. What we have in here, once you get the little bit out of here out of it for testing, you will find that there's a little bit of a plastic wrap on this as well. So what the plastic wrap does is it really just holds everything in place so that it allows you to go in and make sure that it doesn't come undone while it's inside of a box. But all you have to do is just take the wrapping off of that, and then underneath of it, of course, will be the cable.
Let's not unpeel that completely since this is our giveaway for today.
That's right. So we are giving away, just like last time, we're giving away this one here, the one that we are holding in our hands. So, of course, guys, start asking questions. Now's the time. If anybody asks questions early on, great. Go ahead and put them in there. And what we'll do is, as we go through the show today, we will answer them, and then we'll pick a winner. So whoever has the best question will win this prize. So from there, we'll go ahead and just dive right into.
Okay. I'm going to move this box out of the way there.
Good idea. So Brent, what's the, other than what we talked about before, what is the other benefit to fiber versus copper?
Well, the biggest benefit of fiber, or advantage of fibers, is purely distance. Because you don't have the loss, you don't have the collapse of the eye pattern over the distance. Now, when you look at an AOC cable, whether it's a permanently attached head shell or the detachable head shell like this, the vast majority of them are what we call a hybrid. What this means is the TMDS, or the video feeds, will be in fiber. There's 4 of those. The EDID, HDCP, voltage, hot plug, all those signals are carried over copper. It allows for a smaller head shell, it allows for a more efficient operation, and to be honest with you, the loss in those areas are not great enough to worry about it at the distance we're involved in. So it keeps your costs down, makes it very reliable, but again, remember guys, this is a directional format. If you put it in backwards, you're not going to make it work out of the gate. There are answers to that, and we will go over that later in the broadcast.
Yes, we will.
So, get into a little further, young man.
So one of the biggest differences, of course, you already touched on, and we already touched on, was the fact that you're running fiber. And so with fiber, again, you're not having to deal with any kind of electromagnetic radiation or anything like that that's going to cause issues.
And on that note, by the way, that goes both ways. Frequently, the HDMI cable can cause more problems to the rest of the world than the rest of the world can to HDMI. One of the big advantages of fiber is you do not have radiated electromagnetic information, so you're not going to affect your IR system, you're not going to affect your control system. That is one of the big advantages that fiber offers over copper. If you buy a cheap HDMI cable, copper for example, you can absolutely kill your remote control system because it will radiate more noise than the system can segregate from the signals.
That was RTI, wasn't it, or URC that ran into that?
Both of those.
Both of them.
And we do have a question.
We do. Okay, so first question of the day. We actually have 2 questions. Actually, both of these are pretty good. So the first question that we have, Brent, is what is the upgrade path for this specific AOC cable? Now, hold that thought. Can we answer that in a little bit?
I think we should, because there's a lot more to that, and that's a great question.
So we'll come back to that question. The second question we have is they said they see that the cable is HDMI 2.0 compatible. Is there any upgrade path to be compatible with 2.1? I believe that's actually the extended question for that one there, I believe.
But out of the gate, let's talk about straight out of the gate. And we talked about this in the last episode. Currently, there's not an HDMI 2.1 CTS, a testing system for us to validate will anything work with the future. However, based on HDMI statements and based on what we've learned from sources and displays and our work with the primary display manufacturers, you guys are going to be in really good shape. You're going to be able to take this cable, roll right into 24 gigabits, which is 4x6 channels, and support the needs that you have in the near future without a problem.
So just to kind of review that again, so last time we talked about the fact that you have 2 separate, or pardon me, the HDMI 2.0 standard and everything before that, we had 3 channels, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, it actually worked out to be a red, green, blue channel.
And then the clock,
a component and a clock. But now in the HDMI 2.1, what we're going to be running into is we will have 4 channels, and that's what this cable here, our AOC cables. In fact, it's not just this one here, it's actually all of our AOC cables. The detachable head shell for the install bay, the non-detachable head shell, and also our Helios and Velox as well.
Yes.
Those are all 4-channel compatible, so they will be able to run 6 gigs per channel on all 4
by
channels.
4. So right now, right out of the gate, they're 24 gigabits without a problem.
Right, so you won't have to worry about that. So, and actually, in fact, what we could probably do is go ahead and jump into the first, what I thought was the first question. So, the really cool thing about this, guys, is that this is fiber cable inside of here. It is actually fiber. So what that means is you can take that, just like any bulk fiber, and you can put an SC, an LC, or other kinds of ends on the end of this cable. So in fact, we've tested this, and I have it here. Brent, thank you very much. So guys, if anybody's familiar with fiber, what you have with your fiber setups is you do have your standard fault locator. So we have here on the end of this cable, this is just it's to change it from an SC to an LC connection. So we have here, and you got the top-down shot, there we go. We got our light, and so you can see it's coming out of the end of the cable. If we undo it here, it goes away, and it's just coming out the end of that. So, really nice thing about all this is that now I'm going to test this and show you guys. This cable here is actually this cable here. So this is our AOC cable with non-detachable headshell from Install Bay. And what we did was we actually lopped off the ends of those, and we put onto the end
On one of the fibers.
on one of the fibers on an LC connector. So this is actually one of the 4 fiber cables that's actually inside of here. And so what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you that we will take our light here and we're going to plug it in like that. And you guys can see we have light. So when it comes to, let's say in the future when 24 gigs is not enough, it's going to happen. When 48 gigs is not enough,
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. At that point, you are not restricted. You can actually lop off the ends of these cables after running them inside the house, put an end on either side of it.
As per the job requirement.
Exactly. And then from there, you have the ability to run fiber cable, 4 channels of fiber cable. And I believe, and pardon me for this, I didn't do my research long enough, but I believe that this is multi-mode. And so it's not a single mode fiber, so it is multi-mode, so it doesn't go the full, miles worth of distance on a single mode fiber.
We don't need to residentially, even commercially.
Exactly. So with this here, you're going to get probably in the ballpark of, I think it's 300 meters out of that?
A
If
little
I'm
over
right?
1,000 feet, yes.
Yeah. So with that, that makes this a really nice setup for this, for future. By the way, I hate that term, future proofing, but this does.
Planning for changes.
Yes, this does help you to plan in the future that, look, you do have something in the wall, worst case scenario, you can go ahead and put an end on the cable that's not the regular HDMI head. You can put an SC, you can put an LC, or the different types of fiber connectors on the end of it. And that's what makes this really, really nice.
When you add the detachable head shell, which makes it easier to do the installation, when you add the power capabilities that come with the detachable head shell, this is a great way to move forward. This has become our favorite cable. It really has. Both
Yeah.
Adam and I both do a lot of these in installs, even in areas where we could put copper, just because of the flexibility it gives us going forward.
So guys, what we want to do next is I just want to reiterate, guys, go ask questions. Now's the time to ask those questions because this is what we're doing. We're giving this away, and it's the best question. But we need lots of questions to see who has the best question. So make sure you ask those out now.
Now, let's talk about installation of AOCs. And the
So-
reason we're doing this, guys, is we have sold thousands of these products, and we do get a few back. And every time we get one back, we take a very close look at it. And the reason we do this is because these cables are all tested multiple times during the manufacturing process. This is not just, here's the terminal, stick it on there, put a dab of glue on it, and ship it. The reason these are built the way they are with both terminals is so they get tested all the way down the line. So when we get one that's defective, we want to know why. Now, this is a typical example of a defective cable.
Yes, it is.
Adam, tell me about it.
So we got this cable in a little while back, and this is what we normally see in these setups is we see them come back to us, and over the phone, it's really kind of difficult for us to actually troubleshoot with everybody with what's going on. So because we're not there. And so we can't see how the guys are pulling the wires. We can't see what it's run next to, what it's running through. Guys who are running regular category wire or speaker wire, you guys know that in those situations, when you're running it through an attic, there's things that it can get snagged on. It happens. With those, it's a little bit more forgiving. However, with the fiber cables and the guys who are running bulk fiber, you should know this as well, it can cause problems. So we don't want to do too much actual pulling on this wire. You really don't want to be putting any kind of actual strain on it. This cable is very strong, however, it's not as strong. So it's as a standard copper cable. So what we run into, guys, is actually more of this. And if we can get a top-down close shot, what I will do here is I will bring this up. There we are. I don't know if you can see. Almost there.
Lay it
So
a little
on
flatter.
this setup here, guys, let's see if I can get it on the, you'll see that there's a little bit of a bend right about there. So what this tells us here is that, and if you were here and you were able to feel this, you would feel that the actual inside of it, the actual cabling inside is actually bunched up on it. if you're able to see any of that there. But what this is actually doing is this is actually causing resistance inside the cable, and it's going to, because it's glass, it's not.
You get micro fractures. When this happens, the glass will start to shatter and get little fractures. And the common call will get is, well, I'm only getting 1080p, or I'm not getting 4K 60, or I'm not getting HDR. What is happening is the glass is no longer perfect. There's little tiny fissures inside the glass, and that's allowing the light to diffract in directions that we don't want it to, so it's all not getting from point A to point B. That's how we get a pretty good idea that when it was pulled through the house, typically around a 2x4 in an attic or over a header down into a wall, they're pulling hard and it's just putting a little pressure on that glass and causing it to fracture. Now, there is a nice jacket on all these cables. But guys, this is to protect it pretty much this way. It's not going to protect it completely this way. This is where the damage comes, is doing this to a cable. That's what you want to avoid.
So Brent, we actually wound up getting a couple more questions.
Good.
And the first question is, what is the pull weight limitation? I don't have that information. I'll be perfectly honest with you.
Actually, I wrote it down somewhere and I didn't think to check, but you should treat it exactly the same way you do any network cable installation. That means you need to have a 6-inch bend radius. That means you do not want to yank it across the attic as you're running across the headers. I highly encourage that you use the little nylon pulleys when you're doing fiber, whether it's an AOC cable or a bulk fiber. Treat it like you would any 10 gigabit copper installation.
Right. So guys, what you'll see here with the actual reel that this comes in, you actually wind up with about a 6-inch pull radius or wrap radius on this. And there's a reason for that. And we don't want to take this wire and we don't want to crimp it. We don't want to get this nice, 90-degree angle on it. It will break it, or it'll add in micro fractures like Brent is saying. So the next question that we had, Brent, was, is there any protection against over pulling or kinking the cable? So
yes, your own proper installation techniques.
That's correct. So,
it comes down to the quality of your work, as it always has in what we do for a living. If you treat this poorly, it's going to break. If you treat it correctly, and it's not like it's incredibly fragile. This is not an infant. However, you're not going to go out there, stand on it, drive over it, walk on it, throw the spool around like you do a box of 16-4.
So I actually had a call yesterday from a gentleman who had one of our cables, one of these cables here, and he was running in the same thing that we're talking about. And in fact, it's going to wind up being that he will probably have to replace the cable. So with that said, one of the things that I like to do whenever I'm pulling a fragile cable of some sort, I got a lot of quotes going on today. When I'm pulling a lot of fragile cable, one technique that I like to use is, at this point, take the cable. When you run it down the wall, run it down from the top. You go up in the attic, run it down the hole, down to the bottom where you can easily pull it through without having to do a lot of yanking on it. Then when you're up in the attic with the reel, what I like to do is I actually like to place the cable as I'm walking along. And what that does then is it makes sure that you're not doing any actually pulling on the cable itself. Everything's gonna be nice and tight, nothing's gonna be too messed up with it. So
now, one of the things we do suggest when you're doing this, and it's in my original documentation for the Velux fiber, is if you're gonna pull this, run your pull string across the fiber and tape it along here. Do not tape it to the head shell and pull just the head shell. Now, with the install bay detachable head shell, that's what this is about. The whole purpose of this is to take the strain off of that little fine connection and spread it out over the whole system. Use this. Now, it's also a good idea to just run a bit of black tape around this so it doesn't separate while you're pulling it through the house.
Right. And actually, guys, first off, I want to give a big thanks to all the crew that we work with here, the video crew that's here, and everyone who's in the background that you don't see. The pull pressure is 35 pounds.
Oh, we looked it up.
We looked it up.
Awesome.
So thanks, whoever looked it up. You'll get a handshake later. But the pull pressure is 35 pounds. So something like that. I mean, for myself, it's a little hard to gauge that myself.
Yeah, it's not like you're carrying a pound meter with.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, if you're pulling on it more than you're lifting your laptop bag filled with all of your gear, you're pulling too hard.
And we have another question, young man.
Yes, we do. Let's see. Is there a recommended radius, which we just talked about? It's
6 inches minimum.
So with that 6-inch minimum, you're really going to be running right about. Actually, guys, can I get a top-down shot? Sorry about that. Right about here. So that's going to give you what the 6-inch radius means is it's literally 6 inches from here to there.
You can always use a typical pen or a pencil to... The bigger issue we run across really is just the guys pulling it hard around trusses and studs. That's the toughest problem we run into. They run across the attic, they make that bend, and they just keep on trucking.
Right.
That's where the issue. Or they put them in D-rings to go around a hard corner. The little D-rings, the metal on them is not a good choice.
And you actually wind up, if you do get a snag using the D-rings, you will wind up making a 90-degree turn on that.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, you really don't want to do that. We have another question. Guys, thank you so much for these questions. It really makes our day with this. It means we're doing stuff right. And
it means somebody's watching.
Yeah, exactly. So do the cables come in plenum or outdoor direct burial? Plenum, yes.
Direct burial, not
No.
yet.
So
However, if there's an interest, if you guys, enough of you need it, please let us know. In the meantime, lay down your conduit. That's a great way to do it. The detachable headshell pulls very easily through conduit, and I haven't seen any issues with guys running into water, humidity, or vapor problems with the actual jacketing.
yeah, Brent, I have not.
And I would be a tad bit concerned with direct burial with the yard guys.
Yeah. So really and truthfully, we're big proponents to run tubing. Yeah, run. Sorry.
Conduit's the word,
Conduit.
Adam.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Run conduit. It's really the best way to do things. Because then you know that you can run something else in there if you need to. It can get a little tight if you run something a little bit too small, but if you can, go a little bit bigger. It's really the best way to do things. That way, if you run a cable and you run it backwards, it's conduit. You can pull that back through and run it back the other direction.
You can always use the old one to pull a new one.
Exactly. Which, I mean, with this, it's active cable. You are going, you got to make sure on the end of it, one more top-down shot, guys. We have a source. I don't know if you can read that there or not, and we have a display.
And it actually is a display.
Yeah, we went ahead and made sure that we put the little icons on there.
With
for
the
you
antennas
guys.
on it.
Yeah, which is great. We got one more question. Let's see, if someone loses an HDMI tip, how can it be replaced? Call us. Okay, if someone loses an HDMI tip, meaning if you have one of
Take
these
them out back
detachable
and flog
headshells.
them unmercifully, number one.
So if you are putting their detachable headshell in and someone loses the end of this, call us. If it's still under warranty, which by the way, these have how long of a warranty?
Lifetime?
Lifetime.
By the way, the headshell is non-directional. The cable is, the headshell is not. So either headshell can go on either end.
So yeah, again, but whenever issues like that happens, call us. Our phone number here, I don't know if we have a thing for it.
386.
Nope.
866-839-9187.
Extension 8301, and that gets actually to
R3.
me or Brent or Stuart. So we are tech support. When you call up, you're talking to us. So give us a call, let us know what's going on. We want to help you guys finish the projects you're working on and make sure that everything's working. So that's why we're here.
I want you to walk out the door with a paycheck and not go back till they're ready to spend more money.
How many times have we gotten phone calls with product that's not even ours, and we've even given tech support on
4
that?
yesterday for me.
Just don't let the higher ups know that we're actually giving tech support for other people.
Another question. What do we got?
So the next question is: conduit underground typically holds water. Will the jacket
Yes,
on the
it
cable
does,
resist
but
this?
no, it doesn't. As long as you have an undamaged jacket sitting in there, you should not run into any issues. Just don't leave the electronics there. And the Plenum, if you're really concerned about that, the Plenum takes that even further.
Exactly. So you're just going to add, the more shielding you can have on that cable, the better. So we've kind of, at this point, I feel like we've kind of covered most of what we wanted to talk about. The main thing is the do's and don'ts, guys. It's glass. It's not as bad as, mom's china, but it's not copper. You don't want to, you really don't want to, run this stuff.
And let's face it, you don't want to treat copper that bad either.
You really don't. And unfortunately, some of the things that we run into, the amount of damage that we see on even these AOC cables, the damage that, if this was happening to a copper cable, it would be really bad for the copper cable as well. So you really don't want to manhandle these as much as possible.
Now, there are a lot of other things to know. CDA this year, we're going to have a great class with myself and Jeff Piccaccio, our seminar, going over the copper, the fiber, the options, the best way to do this. So there's a lot. Start signing up now. Get hold of your salesman. Get a place in that class. I believe it's on Thursday and Friday. I think at 11 a.m. or is it 1 p.m.?
That I don't know. I'll have to double check.
I don't know on that one, but the information is up on the website. Please check that. start getting prepared for that. And hopefully you're coming to CEDIA this year. And we have another question.
We do. Now this one was answered, but thank you for the question on this. Can we cut these cables and put on an LC and SC type connectors, fiber tips, to then be used for future use? So yes, they can. And you see that right here. This is actually one of our non-detachable headshell pieces that we've actually taken and cut off the end of it. You'll see inside of here, the actual white jacket that's inside of this. There's 4 individual strands of copper inside of there. Whoop, and I undid it. So there's 4 individual strands of copper inside of there, and you probably can't see that.
You mean 4 individual strands of fiber?
Yeah, I'm sorry, fiber. Thank you so much. You probably can't see that right there because it's so stinking
Yes,
tiny.
and do
on
not
that.
stick it into your hand.
Yes, please don't.
Don't do this.
Yeah, don't do that. So
Can I do that to you?
No, please don't. So in that situation, yes, you can put an SC or an LC connector on the end of it. I just didn't do a very good job is what this comes down to when I pulled it off. So, but yes, you can. So, and really and truthfully, that's one of the biggest benefits to these cables. Other than the fact that you do have 24 gig, you know,
Right now?
right now with all 4 channels.
Which supports 8K.
Yeah, yes, it does.
So, guys, you put this in, and anybody that knows me knows I'm a big passive copper fan. I love passive copper. But passive copper does have its limitations, and to me, going forward is probably going to be 10 meters. This, from 10 meters and up, gives you tremendous flexibility, not just today, hell, not even tomorrow, but going way into the future, because if you need to go multi-strands to go to 48, 64, 96, wherever we go next, it's all there. You're ready. You're not having to start over from scratch and redo the system.
So real quick, guys, thank you for letting me borrow this. We have one more question, but also Alex, you just posted on there, and I really like this. Alex says, as a tip for running conduit, we drill holes at the low point
drainage
to let the water out. Winters are cold and freezes the water, and it's true. And
that's what causes the splits.
we do forget down here in sunny Florida that ice is a thing that doesn't go in our drinks.
Guys, this is what ice is for.
Yeah, exactly. So, Alex, you're exactly right. That's actually a really, really great tip for that. Go ahead and, you know, when you're running that conduit, if you run it at a little bit of a slant, just like
running back pipe.
Ask the concrete guys how they run concrete. There's a little teeny tiny slope on it so that when the water drains, it drains off of it. Do that with your conduit. Leave a little bit of a slant in there. That way, at the low end, you put a little teeny tiny hole in there, and the water will drain out back into the soil. So really great for that. Now the question that was on here, so will this tech eventually replace HD-based T-Tech or extender tech?
In my opinion, absolutely.
So one of the reasons that we're giving you the ability to put an SC or an LC connector on the end of it is to give you the ability to, in the future, run some kind of extender. That's why we did this. That's why we made sure that these were able to have different connectors put on the end of it. We want you guys to be able to have all of that, you know, in place for it. So, but with all that said, I think
we're in pretty good shape. Keep sending your questions in. We're going to make a decision by midnight tonight as to who's going to win the cable.
Yep.
And it will not be this one that's been chopped up. It will be, in fact, this one that's perfect with all the parts, pieces, and a very nice box for you.
That's correct.
So get your questions in. We will follow up with another Q&A session just like last time.
Yep.
Join us again in 2 weeks for another episode of Home Tech Tips with Metra Home Theater.
That's right.
I am Brent McCall, and this is Adam Rogers.
Guys, have a great one. Thanks for watching in. Keep the questions coming, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.